Mr. Pui the Motivator once again. So I wanted to do a video. This is in reply to the video that I did it about 3 weeks ago, where I talked about the China-Africa relations. So in that video, I did highlight, or was actually in reply to a video that's seen online that a certain guy from, I think, Ghana or something had posted regarding to something to the effect that Africa or Zambia was essentially being colonized by China. So I figured maybe we could do a reply video. So I did a video where I did explain a little bit with regards to how marketing works and why we have billboards that are in Chinese language. And that video, thanks to you guys watching, it has essentially gone viral. We have got more than 1,000 views on that particular video. I'm really excited about that. It's a great achievement on our side. But then I figured we should do a reply to that video because I've seen a lot of people still have many questions, and others essentially probably don't even understand how these China-Africa relations works. And the result, they're expressing their anger to the video that I did. So today I'm going to try and explain a little bit further with regards to how this topic, or why this topic is why I took that stance, and why I don't believe that Africa, or Zambia particularly, is being colonized by China. For the record, some people were alleging that probably I've been paid by China. That's not true. I wish they did. For all this, I wish I did. Because, to be honest with you, I think we don't understand. The reason why, the problem is that we're fighting the wrong enemy in this battle of economic freedom. Because we want to condemn other foreign interests, at the same time forgetting that in this day and age, people do not go about colonizing countries in the same way they did. A brief history, just so you should understand how colonization worked at the time. What was happening is that Africa had its own kingdoms and rulers back in the days in the 1800s. And some of them were actually really big kingdoms. So we had big leaders. So what happened was that the colonial masters, after sitting down, splitting Africa in the Berlin Conference, they started going to these African states and African kingdoms. And so what they did was, when they got there, they would actually just approach the kingdom. For example, the Zulus, and they would just approach them, hey, sign this treaty. We want you to be our colony. We'll be taking care of you. And then, if the kingdom or the king, the ruler of that particular tribe, refuses that offer or that treaty, they would go to war. And then they would be defeated in those wars. And that's what actually happened in many cases. In some cases, they would just be offered food or something to the rulers only. So essentially, colonization was a force. It was a forced approach, where they had no choice, but they were forced into colonization, much like it was with slavery in many cases. So, but then with now, people are now saying no. China is colonizing Africa through the loans that the African leaders are getting, and therefore they're seemingly blaming the Chinese government for that particular effort. First of all, China has got interests as a country. It's got goals to which they want to achieve. We don't know what those goals are. We don't understand what they are. But what we've sort of seen so far is that China wants to establish itself as a world superpower on the economic front and everywhere. And they're doing everything possible to spearhead their agenda across everywhere across the world. In Europe, they're building the One Belt, One Road initiative, where they're building a road that will connect Asia to Europe. In some countries, they've actually been giving out loans to some countries, and when they fail, they'll take over their ports and try to establish their bases there. So what they're just trying to do is establish themselves as a superpower. You know how America has got bases in different countries across the world. closer to their enemies. That's what China is also trying to do. They're pushing their interests forward. But the interesting part with them is that they don't actually follow a country and give them an offer. Leaders of specific countries, they follow China to say, hey, we've got this ambitious project. We want to build an airport, we want to build a road, we want to build a bridge, we want to build a school. Would you give us some money? So China goes like, okay, cool, you want some money, fine. But just like it is everywhere else, even on a personal level, if you want to get a loan from a bank will give you a loan, but then they'll give you conditions. First of all, for you to get this loan, you need collateral. You need to pay back in this period. These are the conditions attached. So similarly, China does the same thing. This is the loan you want to get. Maybe you want to build a road, whatever. This is the loan we'll give you. However, on this road that you're building, we want you to use a Chinese company. Okay? So we want you to use a Chinese company. You pay back this loan at this rate, as interest rate rather. So what have they done? They're now pushing their interest. Now what they've intelligently done was, because they understand they've got 3 billion people in their country, they're trying to make sure that they spread across the world so as to reduce the number of people in their country. So what do? Since you want that loan that much, so they'll give you the loan and then they'll tell you a company that you should use as a contractor for a road project that you have. So that Chinese company will come with its employees and its team. So what have they done? They've exported their labor force into your country. So now, that company comes into your country as an individual, right? It comes in independently, meaning that you, as a country, and the leadership of that particular country, you are at liberty of telling that company how it will operate, how it will do the job. The type of a road they do, the quality of the project they will do. You, as a country that has contracted that loan, is essentially at liberty to control them, including making sure they follow the rules and regulations that you set to be followed, the labor laws and everything that you need to follow in your country. So it's yours to do at that point. So now, where is the problem? If this arrangement is that it sounds good to the ear. I mean, you go there, you get a loan, they give you a company, you tell them what to do, they do the job, and that's it. What's the problem? Here's a problem. What's been happening is that when those contractors come to our countries in Africa, they sometimes, our leaders, get into backdoor deals with these contractors, so that they can get kickbacks. So they'll have inflated project figures so that they can get kickbacks of those particular projects. Now what that then does is that a leader who is responsible or who is in charge of ensuring that that particular investor or that particular contractor is abiding by the rules and regulations of of that country will not be able to do that. You know why? Because they're now compromised. You cannot go and enforce a law or a labor law onto this Chinese contractor when you know you took some bribes from them. You cannot go to them and enforce your rules onto them when you know you got a kickbacks off them for them to do that particular project. So essentially, they're doing a favor to you. So you want to be quiet. As a result, who gets hurt? The humble person that is employed by that contractor, the humble person that is staying with that contractor. So what has happened is that China, because they're shipping in, they're exporting their labor force into our countries, those particular people are now also seeing opportunities in Africa, starting from our mineral resources all the way up to the human resources that we have. So obviously, as they see opportunities, they try and maximize on opportunities, and thereby mistreating the local people that we have in our countries by, in some cases, giving them very low wages as salaries and whatnot, not giving them proper safety equipment as they're doing their jobs, and in some worst case scenarios, segregating against the locals, like we saw a few weeks back, and I talked about in that video that I did the first time. So now what that means is that they are just simply maximizing on the grip that they have on the leadership system that we have. They know for a fact that because the leaders are getting quick kickbacks off some of these Chinese investors, you cannot go to them and whip them with your laws. You see what happens most of the time when maybe a Chinese company has been found doing something illegal or some sort. What they just do, those guys, is just to pick up their phone and make the phone calls. Even when they're being interrogated by officers just there, they pick up the phone and make the phone calls. Who are they calling? They're calling their government connections, their connections to the leadership system, so that they can be rescued of those situations. And therefore, you see them not getting punished for or getting any repercussions of their bad work that they do. And then, to the worst case scenario, because obviously as they do the kickbacks, the quality of the job that they do is so bad that sometimes they have to be forced into doing that job again. Like we've seen most recently with Lumumba Road. They recently constructed a road. The road has been bad to a point where they had to go back to the project to do it again. I'm not saying there was a corruption involved, but because no one is enforcing the laws,